welcome to the final chapel of the year. I'm Riley, your student body president, and I'm here to give you the final announcements. First, this Monday at 4 p.m. there will be senior speeches. All of you will receive a Zoom invitation through your emails to join on and watch the live senior speeches of this year. Second, awards presentations will be uploaded to your History Google Classrooms on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Please watch to hear who won the Citizenship Award, Christian Leadership, and the Service Awards. All the academic awards will be announced and a few special other recognition awards. Third, all your awards and yearbook and items from teachers can be picked up from the drive-thru on Thursday, May 21st. The drive-thru will be open from 1 to 5 p.m. Remember, you can't get out of the car, but the faculty will come to you. You'll also need to return all your textbooks to your teachers, and also if you have a school laptop, please return that as well. Next will be the winners of the class competition for participating in the SAC activities and representing their school spirit. So in third place, we have the 12th grade with 800 points. In second place, we have the 8th grade with 900 points. And in first place, we have the 11th grade with 1,025 points. So congratulations to the 11th grade for winning a luncheon. Next, onto the SAC election. The winners for the SAC election will be announced by me and some of my fellow members of the SAC. So first, as a current student body president, I would like to welcome the 8th graders who will become 9th graders in the next year. Their class representatives will be Behi and Lily.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Sacco and I'm one of the 10th grade class representatives.
Hey guys, I'm Isabella, the other 10th grade class representative.
And
It is our honor to pass down our positions to next year's 10th grade class. So without further ado, we would like to congratulate Katie Lynn Saniatan
and Camille Febo Santiago.
We wish you the best of luck and we hope that you do your best to fulfill the duties of your new position.
Hello CLA student body. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Brooke.
And we are the past
Junior class reps.
Today we're going to be announcing the new junior class reps. So without further ado,
Congratulations Timothy Costala and Natasha Salvador.
You are the new junior class reps.
Welcome to the board.
And lastly, for the 2020-2021 class representatives, I would like to congratulate Brooke and Gabby for being titled the senior class representatives. And now on to your vice president and president for the next school year. I'd like to congratulate Caitlin McWilliams for winning vice president and Adam winning president for the next school year. I look forward to what you all have in store for your leadership. To finish up this week's announcements, I'd like to thank all of you who made my presidential term one to remember. Thank you all for helping me grow in my leadership and in my creativity. Thank you.
I don't wanna be on my phone, but I can't be alone. Welcome to the modern way. Trying to be somebody I'm not, but it's not what I want. Tell me there's another way. All of the lights I chased are now fading. All the cheap thrills were only time wasted. Tell me what society's plan to define the land. Show me there's a higher way. All of my best friends are sick of pretending. We want the truth.
We want it! We want it!
So much is are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, but the king of my heart, he wind inside my sail, the anchor in the wind. Oh, he is my song. But the king of my heart, he the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, 'cause you are good, good. Oh, 'cause you are good, good. Oh, you're never gonna let me down. 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 You are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, 'cause you are good, good. Oh, 'cause you are good, good. Oh, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down.
Welcome to our last chapel of the year. It's hard to believe that we've gone through a whole school year and we're at this point. The last week of school, which basically would have been exams starting today, so you would only been in school until lunchtime, 12:15, and then we would have had all of our award ceremonies on Thursday, graduation on Friday, all these activities going on. We would have just finished the high school play last week. And Saturday night would have been our dinner theater, so high school students, you would have been singing in that program. And so much has happened. Someone was talking about something that happened back in January and asking me to remember a couple things, and it seemed like years ago. And but you know what? This period of isolation, this pandemic, yeah, there's been some strange things through it all, and some of the things and expectations placed upon us by our government. And we've had to endure, but it's not unprecedented in world history. With some of the different things that have gone on in world history, dealing with wars or the Spanish flu back from the early 1900s, and all the things that people had to go through back then. And I was just looking at a documentary the other day about the Great London Fire and what they went through, with 70,000 people losing There are places to live in the city. So there's been a lot of things in world history that we could discuss, but it's really interesting to really study how people emerged from that, how they came out of that, and what they were like after these, really low points in their lives, whether it be the Great Depression or war or famine or some kind of pestilence. And so my question, I guess, for us coming out of this DLP, coming out of this period of isolation, and maybe getting back to some normal activities throughout the summer is, are we going to come out of this better than what we were before? So that's my question to you. Are you going to come out of this better than what you were before? Are you going to use this as a stepping stone for good in your life? Or are you going to look back on this and it's kind of like a little blip in the story of your life, and basically it's a little dark area, and it's something that you're going to want to forget because you just wasted a lot of time? Or is it you're going to look back at it and say, that was a huge stepping stone in my life? Because there have been other people that have gone through periods of isolation. And the last time I dealt with chapel, I talked to you a little bit about David in Psalm 86 and how David used that psalm in his life to pray to the Lord all the time about when he was going through difficult situations. And it was like 4 different points that we think about when we pray. And hopefully you were able to use that during your time in this isolation. But what I want to share with you today is a Bible story. And most people today think of it as a children's story. It's actually probably the most told story in the entire Scripture. And that's the story of David and Goliath. And people like to use this reference all the time in their lives and in situations. Oh, it was a David versus Goliath story. But there is way more to the story than when David took that sling and launched that rock and hit Goliath between the eyes, in the forehead. So I want to share with you what happened up to that in just a brief amount of time. I know some of you are overall watching these videos, especially if you're in my history class, because of all the lectures we had to go through. But I just want you to stay focused for just a couple minutes, and I want to ask you some serious questions about this by using David as an example. So basically David, the story doesn't begin when he decides to go out and take on Goliath. When the whole Israeli army fled, when Goliath came out on the field to talk, everybody ran away in fear. And David kind of ran towards it and said, what happens to the man who decides to go out and fight? And they're saying this and this and this and this. And he then says, who defiles the God of Israel, the living God? And so David kind of ran towards it and said, God wants us to take this guy out because he's defying him. Not just us as an army, but God. And so in this, David is asking some serious questions, but he goes and he appears before Saul, and then that whole story, and you guys know all that. But what I want to talk to you about is how David got to that point. And I want to see some things in the life of David that basically let us know glimpses of his preparation to get to that point. So the first thing I want you to understand is David prepared himself. During his period of isolation, being a shepherd, out in the wilderness by himself, tending sheep, sleeping out underneath the stars, many nights during the year, David prepared himself. And how do we know this? Well, when the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and Saul needed comfort, one of the men who was in his court came to Saul and said, I know of a young man, because they were looking for a musician who could play music and relieve the stress and the evil spirits on Saul's soul. And so this guy comes forward and he goes, I know this kid, this young man. And a lot of people debate how young or how old David was. We'll say he was somewhere between 17 and 20. And you can go and study that. Some people go as high as 22. Some people go as low as 14. So somewhere in there. We just know he was a young man. But David is described this way in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 18, when the guy describes David to Saul. And he says, he can skillfully play the harp. He's a mighty man of valor. And one of the things I always thought was interesting is, why would he say he's a mighty warrior and a mighty man of valor? Because David had never, according to what we know, participated in war. And it's because the stories of him killing the bear and killing the lion had already circulated. The same stories that David tells Saul when he goes and appears before Saul. So this story is circulating. This guy goes, this kid has killed a lion and a bear. He must be a mighty man of valor, a warrior. Then he's also described as someone as prudent in speech, and the Lord is with him. Now, these are very powerful passages and very powerful descriptions of David. So during his period of isolation with no formal schooling, no social life whatsoever, his reputation had gone out to certain people within not only his community, but the court of the king, that he was skillful at something. Are you skillful at something? Have you taken the time to develop your skills in one area or another, or have you wasted it? And are you brave? Are you confident in the skills that God has given you? Not to go out and kill a bear and lion, but to do something. We have got to get out and do something. Fight our own lions and bears, or go out and serve in one way or another. And you say, well, I'm not very skilled. You've got to do something. We've got to go out and use our lives for the betterment of the kingdom of God and the betterment of our community. And he was prudent in his speech. In other words, what he spoke was useful. It was wise. It was timed rightly, or in a right manner. And this is the reputation. And then his reputation, this kid is special. God is with him. And you say, well, that's because God chose him to do this. No, God chose him because he had a heart that was after God, because he knew who God was, because when he was out there in isolation at night by himself, thankfully he didn't have the distractions that we do today with the internet, and he was able to spend time with God and get to know God in an intimate way. That same God that David could spend time with is the same God that we can spend time with today. Are you? Are you taking time every day to spend with the Lord so that people would say, this is a young person who has a relationship with God. God is with them. They walk with God. Have you been working on how you present yourself in a positive, wise way? Let no man look down on you because of your youth. Are you walking in that way? And are you working on your skills? Do you have some type of skills? So the first thing I want you to see is David prepared himself. And a lot of people go, oh, he just went out there and threw. Have you ever tried to use one of those slingshots? It is very difficult and it takes a lot of skill. So while he was out there watching the sheep, he was practicing so that he could get better at that. And then, we play sports, we do these other things, but do we really take time to work on our individual skill so that we can become better? You've had 7, 8, actually 9 weeks, and if you go all the way back, almost 11 weeks that we've been out of school since spring break. Is there anything that you worked on? You could say, I'm better at this skill than I was before. Some of you that play volleyball, is your volleyball skills better because you've been practicing? Soccer, have you been practicing? We have to use our time wisely. We can't just wait until something opens up and someone makes us do it. We have to internalize that like David did and do it. The second thing I want you to see is he knew his place. His dad comes to him and says, David. Now, David has already gone and played the harp in front of the king. David has already been anointed. So David could basically have an heir to him because he's anointed to be the next king. Secondly, he's already spent time in court playing the harp, and he's been recognized for his ability. But instead of being proud and arrogant, his dad comes to him and says, David, I want you to go and gather all these things together, make sure the sheep are taken care of, and take them to your brothers, and find out how they're doing, and then come back and let me know. Does David argue with him? Why me, Dad? Look, I'm going to be the next king. I've already served in the court of the king. Why are you sending me? David shows respect. What does the Bible say? In 1 Samuel it says he rose up early, took care of his responsibilities by loading all the provisions on the donkeys, and then he went, made sure his flock was taken care of with another shepherd. He did not neglect his responsibility, even though his dad gave him another job. And then on top of that, he went out and when he got there, he did not just leave the provisions and run off and do something. He actually checked the provisions into the right people before he went on to check onto the battle. So he showed respect and humility to his father. He showed responsibility because he knew his place. It's my responsibility. I was given responsibility of those sheep. I've been given the responsibility to be a respectful son to my dad. And so he did. And he showed that. And every time he is asked about himself, he always either gives glory back to God because he knows his place, or he understands what tribe he's been into and he's the least among the least. And he knows that. And so he's saying, I don't deserve any of this of what God's given me. And so basically he goes and takes care of his responsibilities because he knew his place. Do you know your place? Are you still able to show respect and not feel entitled to things around you? Why? Because you are not entitled to anything, really, except what the Lord graciously gives you, because all good gifts come from the Lord. Therefore, we give glory and honor back to God because of the things that he's blessed us with. Do you know your place? Are you respectful and are you responsible? How has your responsibilities been fulfilled during this time of isolation? How has your respect grown during this time of isolation? The next thing is, the third thing is he knew his God. And we see this over and over again. When the Philistine comes out, Goliath, and he's defying God, okay? He says, who is this who defies the living God, the God of Israel, the living God? David knew that God was alive. Why? Because God had fellowship with him while he was a shepherd, while he was a boy, same age as you. God can fellowship with you, and you can go out with the same type of confidence. And then when he goes before Goliath, he says, the Lord who delivered me from the lion and bear, well, this is what he told Saul, the lion and the bear will deliver me. Because David said, it wasn't my skill that took out the lion and the bear, the Lord delivered me. He helped me have the strength to defeat them. And then he told Goliath, I come to you in the name of the Lord this day. The Lord will deliver you into my hand. So David didn't say, I'm going to pick up my sling and I'm going to nail you in the forehead and you're going to die and I'm going to take you. No, that's not what David said. He said, the Lord will deliver you. So he knew who his God was. And he knew what God was capable of. He knew God could deliver him. All he had to do was have faith in it. And as you can see before, the rest of the Israeli army did not have any faith. Why? Because when Goliath came to the field, they ran. And David went towards it. And then the last thing I want you to look at is David knew his abilities and his limitations. And he did not use his limitations as an excuse. He concentrated on what he could do, and he used them to the greatest extent. It's very interesting in the story when Saul comes and goes, okay, I'll let you go, and maybe this kid will be lucky. And he puts his armor and his sword and his stuff on David. And then David realizes, I can't move in this. I've never trained with it. He says, I cannot go in these. I am not used to them. Why would you want me to go out and fight in something I'm not used to? I'm going to use the things that I'm used to. So what did he take out to fight? He took his staff, his shepherd's staff. He took his sling. He took his shepherd's bag. And then he stopped and he picked up 5 smooth stones. Okay? Now, this is a very interesting stone. I have 5 of these in my office because a friend of ours, actually Mrs. Chai, Tiffany Chai, went to Israel on a history trip. And they went to the brook that David stopped in and picked up the 5 smooth stones. So this stone is actually from Israel, from the same brook that David stopped at and picked up the 5 smooth stones. And a lot of people speculate, why did he pick up 5? Well, he knew the whole idea of blood revenge. Because, and this is what I believe, I don't believe he was afraid he would miss or it would take more than 1 stone. No, he said God would deliver me. And he knew it would only take 1 stone to take Goliath down. He had that kind of faith. But he also knew Goliath had 4 brothers. And so if he took out Goliath with 1 stone, he needed 4 more so that he could take out each of Goliath's brothers because of blood revenge. Now, this stone, this is what David was used to. And the insults that were hurled at him from Goliath when he went out there, because he was a puny little ruddy shepherd boy. And Goliath made fun of him because he was limited compared to Goliath. And that is what hinders a lot of us. We are afraid to go out and use the gifts that God has given us. Why? Because they don't measure up to somebody else. And God doesn't judge us how our gifts are compared to other people. He measures us whether or not we're able to use the simple gifts that we have and obey and go in confidence because we know our God and we've prepared. David was confident that he had prepared with his sling. He knew how to use his sling. And he also was confident that he knew his God and what God had done for him in the past. So he prepared himself. He knew his place. He knew his God. He knew his abilities and his limitations. I can't fight like Goliath. I can't fight like the Israelis, which they had not been very successful with anyway. He goes, but I do know how to fight like this. I do know how to use the gifts that I've been given and the things that I've worked on. So let me encourage you. Get to know God. You have the responsibility to prepare yourself. Life is not about handouts. Life is about giving. Using what we have already received to give to others. And then when we do that, God gives us more to give to others. So when you come out of this isolation period, hopefully you will have grown in your experiences. You will have grown in who you are because you are prepared for the next level. If you have not, it's not too late. You can still make the decision. You know what? I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to take the limitations and the abilities that I have, work on them, get to know my God, and prepare myself to do what God has called me to do. That is an incredible way to live, just like David. So I want to encourage you today. Use the abilities and limitations. Use your knowledge of God. Prepare. And also, know your place. Be respectful and take care of your responsibilities. Thank you, and God bless.